When you're planting a mulberry tree, the best spot to do it is probably not underneath a bunch of sassafras. You can see this tree's been pretty neglected. Came with the property. This old tomato cage got left on the tree here, so we got to clean that up. You can see the tree's kind of bending this way to compensate for the lack of light. So we're going to clear out some of the sassafras around here, clean up the bottom of this, and try to train some of these upper branches for future growth. So let's get to work. I had to bust out the ladder for this project. I'm going to start out by taking out some of these sassafras branches right here and see if that's going to open up a little more light to this tree. Sassafras has natural oils inside them that are pretty flammable, so this is good for burning, and they're not really good for mushrooms. So I'm going to be using these mostly for garden beds. I'll be making a lot of them into wood ash. So we are going to recycle everything. This was so satisfying. We opened up a pretty big area right here. It's going to let so much more light in here for this mulberry. Did have one accident where I broke one of these higher branches, but that's okay because we're going to clean up this top to shape it the way we want. But we're going to start at the bottom and work from the bottom up and inside out. So this tomato cage has got to go first. A lot of string in here. They tied it to that cage with this string. So all this, we're going to get that out too. Before we get the chopping, let's talk about what tools I'm using here. The main tool I'm using for these bigger cuts is this samurai saw. I'll put a link in the description to this. This is a really nice saw. So I usually don't like spending money on stuff for gardening or pretty much anything. But spending a little bit of extra money to get quality tools is definitely important. And for my hand pruners, I got the Felco 8s. This is what a lot of people use. These things are really good. Like I said, a little bit more expensive, but these things are going to last you a long time. It's really important too, when you're moving tree to tree, that you sanitize your equipment. So I have a little spray bottle here that's just got some alcohol in it. So I just like to spray down my blade with it, get a decent coating on there. And then I got an old sock in my pocket, and I just kind of wipe it off a little bit. That'll stop infections spreading from tree to tree. But be careful with these. They're really sharp. You can cut yourself really easy. So don't move your hand towards the blade. And this is how I carry around my setup, so I have easy access to all my tools. Got the pruners right on the side with the pouch, the alcohol. And then I keep my blade on this side. It's kind of like the True Grit style. So I can just pull it out, pop it right back in when I'm not using it. It makes everything really easy to get to. Make sure you're planning ahead before you make any cuts. I know right away when I come down here, I see this branch growing into my main trunk. This is the one I'm going to keep here. This probably started out as a sucker growing out of the base and just got way too big. So I'm going to hack this thing off right at the ground here. I got through and she's still standing because it is grown into here. So I'm going to try to pull it and see if I can separate it. There we go. Another patch of real nasty growth growing out the side of my main leader I'm keeping here. So we're going to come in. I'm going to cut these out too. You see this straight line right here? This is the line I'm going with. When Paul Gauchi's pruning, he always suggests following the straight lines to make all your cuts. It helps the tree heal better. Nice flush cut that's going to heal up real nice. And you can see the string sticking out here. There's not really too much I can do with that. It's into the tree, so just going to have to leave that. So we got the base cleared out. We got our nice main stem we're working with here. Starting from the bottom up, I noticed these little branches sticking out the side here. All these are going to go. And I'm going to stop taking these off when I get up to here. This is going to be my main frame where everything branches out. Now ideally, I would not let it get this high if I was growing this tree myself. I'd want it to be down lower so I can actually pick the fruits when they form. But we have to work with what we got. So we're gonna see what we can do. Take these guys, close as I can get, give them a nice little snip. It's like they were never there. Now let's assess what we're working with. You can see this was kind of set up to have a central leader and branch out, but since no light was getting over here, this tree was trying to put out all these branches this direction. Now there's not much we can do to fix it at this point, but I'm gonna pick what branches I want to keep here. I'd really like to do this in open center. It's almost set up to where if I cut it here, this thing would have a really nice open center, but I think we gotta keep it kind of the way it is. It's for the fact that we don't want to cut off too much growth. So here's what I decided on. I'm gonna keep this smaller branch that comes out because I like this angle and it's gonna get a lot of light that direction. Same with this one here and this one here. Now I'd love to chop this off, but I'm not gonna. So this is also one we're gonna keep. So this is gonna have 4 main scaffolds coming out of this leader here. So I'm gonna go back in, and these little guys right here, I'm gonna take these 2 off. Nice flush cuts like they were never there. I follow my way up. This branch here is trash. It does me no good. It's pointing straight up. It's getting shaded out. It's just wasting energy in this tree. So I'm gonna go along here and just like before, a straight line following here to here. It's gonna cut into the collar a little bit, but that's gonna be okay. It's gonna be a nice flush cut so this bark can wrap around it and heal. Now here's a little trick. Since there is some weight on this branch, I don't want this to break and peel this bark off. So I'm gonna make one more cut a little bit higher first to make this branch so it's not heavy, so I can just kind of grab onto it, finish cutting through this, and not have to worry about injuring the tree. Real nice flush cut. Right now, just on a ladder, working our way up here, trying to get the frame of this tree set up. So I'm really nice right here with my frame, working my way up. We have some crossing branches here and kind of just a mess going on here. So I think I'm gonna take out this one for sure is coming out, this one, and I think we'll look and we'll see if we want to do anything with this one before we cut it. You could always come back, but we're gonna keep going because I have a plan for this branch right here. Here we got another one just growing straight out the top of the trunk here. No good. We're gonna get rid of that one. All these little side shoots coming out. While I'm here, I'm seeing these little guys coming straight up, straight down. Not doing me any good. Taking those out as well. Got a dead branch. That's gone for sure. Now we have some decisions to make. I'm really tempted to make a cut right here and get rid of this whole big branch that's too high for me to reach, but I'm gonna leave it for this next season. You don't have to do everything all at once. We'll leave it. We'll see if anything happens out the side here, and then maybe come back and work with it. This one is staying though. Got this extra little guy sticking out the side. Now let me show you how I'm gonna shape these other smaller branches I'm keeping here. So if you look here, you might not be able to see it. There's a little bud facing towards me. So we're gonna get some plant growth out of that. If I take this and cut it right above that bud, what's gonna happen is a branch is gonna come out the direction of the bud. Now that would put this towards the center of the tree, which I don't want. So that one's going away. But the branch above it, I have all this extra room in the canopy right here. So I'm gonna follow this branch up. Gets kind of gnarly at the end here, but I have a decent growth sticking up there. So I'm gonna cut that little guy off, and then I'm gonna find a bud right there. And from that bud, now I'm gonna get more growth coming out the way I want it to grow. And the one going down, that's gonna go. You got a big decision here with this one going as high as it's going. I have this side shoot coming out, and I've made it so it's going to grow the way I want it to grow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right above this shoot here, get rid of this whole thing. So it's going to be a weird shape, but that's the cool thing about pruning is you can shape your trees. Without that there, this is going to take over as the main branch, and it's going to form away from the tree, and it's going to get a lot more light. You see that? Real cool shape to it. It doesn't make sense for me to show you every cut I'm making with this tree. Pretty much the stuff I told you. I'm just going through the tree and doing the same thing all the way around. Looks like this is where I'm gonna be getting some fruit this year, so that's going to be pretty cool. This branch here, so it kind of twists. You can see where it probably lost some growth here at some point, and this just kind of took over for the shape of the branch, and now it's running right into my other branches. I like this one that's coming up at a pretty good angle right here, away from the tree. So I'm just going to go ahead, head that one back. Got this branch that comes out here, has some newer growth. The older growth goes on, it's bumping into this limb. So I'm going to turn this newer growth into the way this tree grows. So I'm going to get rid of that whole big piece. And right here is my new wood. I'm going to go to the outward facing bud, give it a clip. And this year, we're going to get growth out and up. Now look at a tragedy that happened while taking the sassafras out. The limb came down, broke one of my big branches here, but that's not a problem. What I'm going to do here is, I'm going to follow this back, and I'm going to give it a chop right here. Which doesn't seem right because you really don't want these flat branches coming out. But the way I'm trying to redo this tree is to make it lower at some point. So this branch coming out like this should be fine. We'll focus on side growth out of this. And I also have this really fresh growth coming out of here too. If I want, I can follow one of these buds, give it a cut, grow another branch out of this. But since it is growing up, that guy is going to go too. This season, I'm just going to find a bud, leave a couple on there, and see what happens. She's starting to look a little bare, but that's a good thing, because right now we're planning for the future. When you have a neglected tree like this, you're probably going to have to come in here and make some intimidating cuts. But in the end, this tree is going to be better off for it. And mulberry's pretty hardy, so even though I'm making all these cuts, it's going to recover just fine. Probably going to set up a lot of suckers on there that we'll have to keep maintaining. But in the end, this is going to turn out good. So I've implemented all these techniques throughout this tree. Didn't go and do the whole entire thing. I got it cleaned up pretty good. I don't want to cut too much off, because if you do that with mulberry, you're going to get crazy sucker growth everywhere, and it's just going to be a nightmare. But I really like where I'm at with this tree now. These branches are probably going to start getting a lot of weight on them and sagging down, which is going to be pretty cool with this open center. You kind of get that when the fruits weigh it down, and I actually like that look. And if it starts doing that, maybe I can actually reach these mulberries when they come in here. Looking towards the future, next year, after this grows, I see what it does. We got some crisscrossing going on here. Canopy's getting a little out of control. I'm thinking we're gonna probably be taking some of these bigger branches out to open it up, but that'll be for next year. The pruning does not have to all be done in 1 year, especially when you're dealing with something that's never been pruned. You want to go do a little bit at a time, come back, reassess, and go from there. This canopy's wide open now, so any of the light that comes through here is going to go right on top of here and get to the leaves. And we're also clearing out so much airflow to go inside here, which is good. Keep some diseases off this tree. He's starting to get that little bonsai look, which I really love, like Paul Gauchi's apple trees. I got brush just about everywhere, and as always, we're going to be recycling this, doing something with it. I think everything has a use, and this isn't the best way to propagate mulberries. I took some dormant cuttings I got with some rooting hormone inside, but what I've been doing, like when I prune my crab apples and the Rosa Sharon and stuff, I'm just taking some of this fresher growth, I'm cutting it up into like 10-inch lengths or so, just stab it in the ground. I mean, it's not the best way to propagate these trees, but who knows? You got low odds, but a couple of these might take, and I might get some free mulberries out of it. And when this tree starts growing more, I'm going to take some of these softwood cuttings, and I know for sure we'll get some mulberry trees out of that. So free mulberry trees, look at them all. Just look at all those. Got some first year growth, some second year growth. Not an expert on propagating mulberries, but I'm going to scuff up the ends here, stick some in the ground, probably put a little rooting hormone on some of these. Just kind of go to different places throughout my property, stick them in the ground. Worst case scenario, nothing happens. Who knows, we might get lucky.